I watched Lydia apply her lipstick in the rearview mirror, the same shade of burgundy she'd worn the night we got engaged. That was 7 years ago. Now she was checking her reflection like I wasn't sitting 3 feet away, like I was part of the upholstery. "Nathan," she said without looking at me, "try not to mention the Henderson project tonight. Nobody wants to hear about foundation inspections at my birthday dinner." "Noted," I said. She snapped the visor up. "And please, for once, try to keep up with the conversation. Last time you just sat there like furniture." I started the engine. The restaurant was downtown, 23 minutes in Saturday traffic. Lydia spent the entire drive scrolling through her phone, smiling at something I wasn't part of. Her thumb moved fast. Whoever was on the other end was making her happier than I'd seen her in months. We arrived at 7:30. The reservation was for 8 people. Lydia's college friend Clara Ionescu and her husband, my former supervisor Miles Fenwick and his wife, and 2 others I barely knew. Rowan Keats was already at the table when we walked in. I knew Rowan peripherally. He worked in commercial real estate, moved in the same professional circles, showed up at the same networking events. Tall, confident, the kind of guy who wore expensive watches and made sure you noticed. He stood when Lydia approached, kissed her cheek a fraction longer than necessary. "Happy birthday, Lydia," he said, his hand lingering on her shoulder. "Thank you for coming," she said, and something in her voice changed. Softened. I filed it away. I took the seat at the end of the table. Strategic position. I could see everyone, hear everything, and nobody had to acknowledge me unless they wanted to, which they mostly didn't. Clara arrived 10 minutes later, apologizing for traffic. She hugged Lydia, waved at the rest of us, took the seat across from Rowan. Miles and his wife showed up right after, and suddenly the table was full of noise and laughter and the kind of energy that made me feel like I was watching through glass. The waiter brought menus. Lydia ordered a bottle of wine without asking if anyone had preferences. When it arrived, she made a toast. "To another year of growth," she said, raising her glass, "and to leaving behind anything that doesn't serve us anymore." Everyone drank. I noticed Rowan watching her over the rim of his glass. Dinner progressed in predictable patterns. Clara talked about her new job in pharmaceutical sales. Miles complained about city permit delays. Lydia held court at the center of the conversation, bright and animated, directing the flow like a conductor. Every few minutes, her eyes would drift to Rowan, and he'd smile back with the kind of familiarity that takes time to build. I ordered the cheapest entree on the menu. Old habit. I'd been doing structural inspections for 15 years, made decent money, but Lydia had started earning more than me 3 years ago and never let me forget it. She worked in luxury property management, spent her days walking wealthy clients through penthouses I'd never afford. "Nathan," Miles said halfway through the meal, pulling me into the conversation, "how's that Winchester Avenue project going?" "Foundation's compromised," I said. "Water damage in the crawl space, some lateral cracking in the north wall. Recommended a full structural assessment before they proceed." "Sounds expensive," Miles said. "Cheaper than having it collapse later." Lydia sighed audibly. "Can we please talk about literally anything else?" "Sorry," Miles said, though he didn't sound sorry. He changed the subject to a mutual acquaintance's new boat, and I went back to being invisible. I watched instead. Watched the way Lydia leaned toward Rowan when he spoke. Watched how she laughed at his jokes a half-second before anyone else. Watched Rowan's hand rest casually near hers on the table, close enough that their fingers could brush if either of them moved an inch. The waiter brought dessert, Lydia's favorite, a chocolate torte with raspberry sauce. She took a photo before eating it, posted something on her phone, smiled at the screen. Then she stood up, tapping her wine glass with her fork until everyone quieted down. "I just want to say thank you all for being here tonight," she said. Her cheeks were flushed from the wine, her voice confident and clear. "This year has been transformative for me. I've learned a lot about what I want, what I deserve, and what I'm not willing to settle for anymore." She looked directly at me when she said that last part. "I've realized that life is too short to stay in situations that don't make you happy," she continued. "So here's to change. Here's to taking control. And here's to not being afraid to walk away from things that aren't working." Clara raised her glass uncertainly. "To change?" "To change," everyone echoed. Lydia grinned, and in that moment she looked like someone I didn't recognize. "And just so everyone knows," she added, her smile sharpening, "don't get comfortable. This isn't permanent." The table went quiet. A few nervous laughs rippled around. Miles glanced at his wife. Clara studied her dessert plate like it held answers. I stood up slowly, pulled my wallet from my pocket, and placed 2 20s on the table next to my plate. "Perfect," I said, meeting Lydia's eyes. "Neither is this." I walked out. Behind me, I heard the scrape of chairs, the sudden spike of conversation. Someone called my name. I didn't turn around. I pushed through the restaurant door into the cool night air and headed for my truck. My phone started ringing before I reached the parking lot. Lydia's name flashed on the screen. I let it ring. It stopped, then started again immediately. I turned the phone to silent, drove home, and parked in the driveway of the house we'd bought together 4 years ago. Inside, everything was exactly as we'd left it. Lydia's shoes by the door, coffee cups in the sink, the stack of mail on the counter, still unopened. I went to the garage, pulled down the old cardboard box labeled office supplies, and started organizing my thoughts. I didn't need to understand everything yet. I just needed to start documenting. My phone lit up with texts, 14 missed calls. I ignored all of them, opened a new document on my laptop, and began writing down everything I could remember about the dinner. Who sat where, who said what, the way Rowan looked at my wife, the way she looked back. Then I went further back, started listing dates and times over the past 6 months when things hadn't added up. Late meetings that ran past midnight, weekend conferences that required overnight stays, the Tuesday evenings when she started going to a yoga class that, according to the studio's website, didn't exist. I was good at patterns. It was literally my job. You look at a structure long enough, you see where the stress points are, where the weight isn't distributed properly, where something's been supporting a load it was never designed to carry. Our marriage had cracks. I just hadn't wanted to see them. But now I did. At 2 a.m, I heard Lydia's car pull into the driveway. The front door opened, her heels clicked across the hardwood. She appeared in the doorway of my office, makeup smeared, eyes red. "We need to talk," she said. "Not tonight," I replied, not looking up from my laptop. "Nathan, please? I didn't mean it the way it sounded." "Yes, you did." She stood there for another minute, waiting for me to turn around, to engage, to give her the fight she was looking for. I kept typing. Eventually, she walked away. I heard her bedroom door close. Her bedroom, not ours. That had been true for 3 months now, ever since she'd claimed she needed better sleep for her new responsibilities at work. I saved the document, backed it up to 2 different drives, and went to bed in the guest room where I'd been sleeping since April. Tomorrow, I'd start filling in the gaps. Sunday morning arrived with fog and silence. Lydia's car was gone by the time I woke up. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Staying at Clara's for a few days. We both need space." Space. Sure. I made coffee and opened my laptop. The document from last night was still there, a growing list of inconsistencies that suddenly felt less like paranoia and more like data. I'd spent 15 years learning how to see what other people missed. Small details that pointed to larger problems. A crack in the foundation meant water intrusion. Water intrusion meant structural instability. Follow the evidence, find the source. So I started mapping the timeline. 6 months ago, Lydia got promoted to senior property manager at Whitmore Luxury Estates. Good news, we'd celebrated with expensive wine, but with the promotion came longer hours. Evening showings, weekend open houses, client dinners that stretched past 11. I pulled up her work calendar, the one she kept synced to our shared device for transparency. Funny thing about shared calendars, people forget they're sharing them. April 12th, client dinner 7:11 p.m. April 19th, property showing, Riverside Tower, 8 p.m. April 26th, portfolio review meeting, downtown office, 6 to 10 p.m. May 3rd, networking event, Harbor Convention Center. I cross-referenced these against her credit card statements, which I had access to because we'd set up joint accounts when we bought the house. Another thing people forget about when they're busy being somewhere else. April 12th, no charges at any restaurant between 7:11 p.m., but there was a charge at a hotel bar at 9:47 p.m., the Meridian, downtown. Room service charged to the same card at 11:23 p.m. I sat back. Hotel bars were where you met clients, sure, but room service? I kept going. April 19th, the property showing at Riverside Tower. Except Riverside Tower wasn't one of Whitmore's listings. I checked their website. Nothing. Checked the MLS database using Miles's old login credentials he'd given me last year for a consulting job. No units available, no recent sales activity. April 26th, portfolio review meeting. Whitmore's downtown office closed at 6 p.m. according to their website. No evening hours listed. Each entry had a hole in it. Small enough to miss if you weren't looking, large enough to drive a question through. I needed more data points. Monday morning, I called Miles. He picked up on the 3rd ring, sounded surprised to hear from me. "Nathan, hey, listen, about Saturday night?" "Forget Saturday," I said. "I need a favor." "Sure, what's up?" "You still in touch with anyone at Whitmore Estates?" Pause. "Why?" "Research. thinking about recommending them to a client, wanted to get a sense of their operation. Another pause. Miles wasn't buying it, but he also wasn't going to push. I know their facilities manager, Greg Hartwell. Met him at a conference last year. Want me to reach out? Just his contact info, I said. I'll handle it from there. Miles texted me the number 20 minutes later, along with a message. Everything okay, man? I didn't respond. Tuesday afternoon, I drove downtown to Whitmore's office building, parked across the street with a clear view of the entrance, settled in with a thermos of coffee and a notepad. Surveillance wasn't romantic. Mostly it was boring, but boring work produced useful information. Lydia's car was in the garage. I'd checked. At 5:47 p.m., she emerged from the building with two other women, both in business attire. They stood outside talking for a few minutes, then separated. Lydia walked north toward the parking garage. At 6:03 p.m., she drove out, headed west on 5th Street. I followed from a distance, 3 cars back. She didn't go home. She turned onto the freeway, drove south for 20 minutes, exited near the waterfront district. The Meridian Hotel, same place from April. She parked in the visitor lot, grabbed her purse, walked inside like she'd done it 100 times. I waited 15 minutes, then followed. The lobby was upscale. Marble floors, abstract art on the walls, a pianist playing something soft and forgettable in the corner. I took a seat in one of the leather chairs near the entrance, pulled out my phone, pretended to read emails. Lydia wasn't in the lobby. I checked the restaurant, empty. The bar was busier, clusters of people in business, casual nursing cocktails, and craft beers. No Lydia. I was about to leave when the elevator doors opened and Rowan Keats walked out. He looked relaxed, jacket off, tie loosened, sleeves rolled up. He headed straight for the bar, ordered something from the bartender, checked his phone while he waited. 5 minutes later, Lydia stepped out of the same elevator. She had changed clothes. The professional skirt and blouse from earlier were gone, replaced by jeans and a fitted top I'd never seen before. She spotted Rowan immediately, smiled, walked over like they'd planned it. They didn't hug, didn't kiss. Just stood close, talking in low voices, his hand resting briefly on the small of her back before they moved toward a corner booth. I didn't need to see more. I left the hotel, drove home, and pulled up Rowan's information. LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram. He worked for Apex Commercial Realty, specialized in high-value property acquisitions. His social media showed exactly what I expected. Expensive cars, luxury vacations, photos at exclusive events. He was 42, divorced, no kids. His ex-wife's profile was public. She'd remarried last year to someone who looked significantly less wealthy. Rowan's patterns were easy to track. He posted regularly, tagged locations, showed off his lifestyle like it was a credential. The Meridian Hotel appeared in 6 different posts over the past 3 months. Great meeting space, one caption read. Best bar downtown, said another. I cross-referenced those dates with Lydia's calendar. 4 matches. So they were careful, not careful enough. Wednesday, I called into work and told them I had a family emergency. Not technically a lie. Then I drove back downtown, found a different parking spot with a better angle on the Meridian's entrance, and waited. Rowan arrived at 4:47 p.m., parked his black BMW in the lot, walked inside carrying a leather briefcase that looked more decorative than functional. Lydia showed up at 5:52 p.m. Same pattern. She went up first. He followed 20 minutes later. They left separately, Rowan first at 9:14 p.m., Lydia at 9:41 p.m. I took photos, time-stamped everything, built the documentation one piece at a time. Thursday, I followed Lydia to a different location, a condo building on the east side, one of the luxury developments Whitmore managed. She had keys, let herself into Unit 14C, stayed for 3 hours. When she came out, Rowan was with her. They stood in the parking lot talking, his hand on her shoulder, her laughing at something he said. I got photos of that too. Friday evening, Clara Ionescu called me. I almost didn't answer, but curiosity won. Nathan, she said, I wanted to check in. After Saturday, are you okay? I'm fine. Lydia's been staying with me. She's pretty upset. I'm sure she is. She said you walked out without explanation, just left her there in front of everyone. She gave me an explanation, I said. I took her advice. Silence on the other end. Then, what advice? She said not to get comfortable, so I'm not. Clara sighed. Nathan, I don't know what's happening between you two, but Lydia cares about you. She's just going through something right now. I'm sure she is, I said again. Can you at least talk to her? Work this out? Working on it, I said, and ended the call. Saturday, I drove to a storage facility on the industrial edge of town, rented a unit under my name, moved half my belongings out of the house, Clothes, tools, important documents, everything I'd need if things got worse, which they would. Sunday, Lydia came home. I was in the garage when her car pulled up. She walked in through the side door, saw me organizing equipment on the workbench, stopped. "We need to talk," she said. "Sure." "I made a mistake Saturday night. I was trying to be funny and it came out wrong. I hurt you and I'm sorry." "Okay," she frowned. "That's it? Just okay?" "What do you want me to say?" "I want you to engage, Nathan. I want you to tell me what you're thinking, what you're feeling. You've been completely shut down since the dinner." I set down the wrench I'd been holding, turned to face her. "You want to know what I'm thinking?" "Yes. I'm thinking you've been lying to me for at least 6 months. I'm thinking you've been spending your evenings with Rowan Keats at the Meridian Hotel and probably a dozen other places I haven't tracked down yet. I'm thinking that Tuesday yoga class doesn't exist, that half your client dinners never happened, and that you're not staying at Clara's because you need space. You're staying there because it's easier than explaining where you actually spend your nights." Her face went pale. "Nathan, I'm thinking," I continued, "that you stood up at your birthday dinner and announced to everyone that you're done with me. You just didn't have the courage to say it directly." "That's not what I meant." "Yes, it was." She stared at me, mouth open, searching for words that wouldn't come. Finally, she said, "How long have you known?" "Does it matter?" "Have you been following me?" "Observing," I said. "There's a difference." "That's insane. That's thorough," I finished. "I'm thorough. You know that about me." Lydia's hands were shaking. "So what now? You want a divorce?" "I want to know why," I said quietly. "That's all. Just tell me why." She looked away. "Because I'm not happy, Nathan. I haven't been for a long time." "And Rowan makes you happy?" "He makes me feel seen. I see you." "No," she said, her voice cracking. "You observe, you analyze, you take notes, but you don't really see me. You never have." I nodded slowly. "Okay. Thanks for clarifying." "That's it? You're not going to fight for us?" "What's there to fight for?" I asked. "You already left. You just haven't moved your stuff out yet." She stood there another minute, then turned and walked back into the house. I heard her in the bedroom, opening drawers, slamming things around. 20 minutes later, she came back out with 2 suitcases. "I'm going back to Clara's," she said. "Noted. We'll figure out the logistics later. The house, the accounts, all of it." "Sure." She hesitated at the door. "For what it's worth, I never wanted to hurt you." "But you did anyway," I said. "Funny how that works." She left. I stood in the garage for a long time after her car disappeared, then went back inside, opened my laptop, and continued building the case. Because this wasn't over. Not even close. Monday morning, I showed up at Rowan Keats's office building at 7:45. Early enough that the parking lot was still mostly empty, late enough that he'd be on his way. Apex Commercial Realty operated out of a sleek glass tower downtown, the kind of place that screamed money without saying a word. I parked where I could see the entrance, waited with the engine off. Rowan arrived at 8:12 in his black BMW, parked in a reserved spot near the door, walked inside checking his phone. He moved like someone who'd never had a reason to look over his shoulder. That was about to change. I gave him 20 minutes to settle in, then walked into the building. The lobby was all polished concrete and minimalist furniture, a reception desk staffed by a young woman with perfect posture and a practiced smile. "Good morning," she said. "Do you have an appointment?" "Just dropping something off," I said, holding up a manila envelope. "For Rowan Keats. Won't take a minute." She gestured toward the elevators. "4th floor, suite 410. I took the stairs instead. The 4th floor hallway was carpeted, lined with frosted glass doors displaying company names in brushed steel letters. Suite 410 was at the end. I pushed through into a small reception area, another desk, another professional smile. "Can I help you?" the receptionist asked. "Delivery for Rowan Keats," I said, holding up the envelope again. "I can take that for him?" "Need a signature? Company policy." She frowned, but picked up the phone. "Mr. Keats, there's someone here with a delivery that requires your signature." Pause. "Okay, I'll send him back." She gestured toward a hallway behind her desk. "Second door on the right." I found Rowan in his office, standing behind a glass desk, looking mildly annoyed. The space was exactly what I expected. Floor-to-ceiling windows, expensive art, furniture that cost more than most people's cars. He glanced up when I walked in, recognition flickering across his face. "Nathan," he said carefully, "what are you doing here?" I closed the door behind me. Wanted to have a conversation, just the two of us. His jaw tightened. This isn't appropriate. Neither is sleeping with my wife, but here we are. He moved around the desk, putting space between us. I don't know what Lydia told you. She didn't tell me anything. I figured it out myself. I'm good at that. Patterns, inconsistencies, things that don't add up. It's kind of my specialty. Look, whatever you think is happening. The Meridian Hotel, I interrupted. Tuesday and Thursday evenings, Unit 14C at the Riverside Development on Wednesdays. Should I keep going? The color drained from his face. Here's how this works, I said quietly. You're going to stop seeing my wife. You're going to block her number, ignore her calls, disappear from her life completely. And you're going to do it today. Or what? He said, trying for defiance, landing somewhere around nervous. Or I start making phone calls, your boss, your clients, your ex-wife, who I'm sure would love to know you're repeating old patterns. I'm guessing that's why she left, right? You have a type. His hands clenched. You're threatening me. I'm offering you a choice. Walk away clean, or I make this very public. Your call. This is harassment. Documentation, I corrected. I have photos, timestamps, credit card receipts, surveillance footage from 3 different locations, all perfectly legal to obtain, by the way. I checked. Rowan stared at me like he was trying to decide if I was bluffing. I wasn't. He could see that. You're insane, he said finally. Thorough, I replied. There's a difference. I placed the manila envelope on his desk. This is everything I have so far. Consider it a preview. Walk away now, and this stays between us. Keep seeing Lydia, and I start distributing copies. We clear? He didn't answer. I turned toward the door. Nathan, he called out. I stopped. She doesn't love you anymore. You know that, right? This isn't going to change anything. Probably not, I agreed. But it'll make me feel better. I left him standing there, took the stairs back down, drove home feeling something close to satisfaction. It lasted about 6 hours. That evening, Lydia called. I let it ring twice before answering. What did you do? She said immediately. Good evening to you too? Rowan said you showed up at his office, said you threatened him. Had a conversation, I corrected. Big difference. Nathan, this is crazy. You can't just what? Defend my marriage? Protect what's mine? I'm not yours, she snapped. I'm not anyone's property. Funny, you seemed pretty comfortable being his for the past 6 months. Silence. Then, I want a divorce. Already filed the paperwork, I lied. You'll get the notice this week. You what? You said you wanted out. I'm giving you what you want. Isn't that what good husbands do? Nathan, anything else? She hung up. I set the phone down, poured a glass of water, stood in the kitchen staring at nothing. The thing about revenge is that it doesn't fill the empty spaces. It just makes them quieter. Tuesday morning, I was replacing a window seal on the Henderson project when my phone rang. Private number. I answered anyway. Nathan Crowell? A woman's voice, clipped and professional. Speaking. This is Jennifer Wallace from Apex Commercial Realty. I'm calling about an incident involving one of our employees, Rowan Keats. Do you have a moment? I climbed down from the ladder, walked to my truck. Sure. Mr. Keats filed a complaint alleging that you entered our premises yesterday and made threatening statements. I need to inform you that you're no longer permitted on Apex property. Any future attempts to contact Mr. Keats through our office will be treated as trespassing. Understood. Additionally, Mr. Keats has requested we forward your contact information to our legal team. They may be in touch regarding a restraining order. He's welcome to try, I said. I'd be happy to explain to a judge why I visited his office, with documentation. Silence. Then, Mr. Crowell, I don't know what's happening between you and Mr. Keats, but I strongly suggest you cease all contact immediately. Already planning on it. Thanks for the call. I hung up and got back to work. An hour later, my phone rang again. This time, it was a number I recognized. Nathan, it's Greg Hartwell from Whitmore, the voice said. We need to talk about Lydia. I set down my tools. What about her? She called in this morning, said she's taking emergency leave, said there's a family situation. Then I got a call from building security at the Riverside Development. They said someone matching your description was seen entering Unit 14C on Friday evening. That true? I was conducting a property inspection. Without authorization? Nathan, that's trespassing. I had keys, legitimate access through my inspection credentials. For what purpose? Research, I said simply. Greg sighed heavily. Look, I don't know what's going on with you and Lydia, but this needs to stop. Whitmore can't have this kind of liability. If you show up at any of our properties again without explicit authorization, I'm filing a formal complaint. Noted. And Nathan, whatever you think you're accomplishing here, it's not worth it. Trust me. He ended the call. I stood there in the half-finished construction site, dust settling around me, and felt the walls closing in from multiple directions. Wednesday afternoon, I got a call from an unknown number. I answered. Mr. Crowell? A man's voice, professional, unfamiliar. Speaking. This is Detective Morrison with the City Police Department. I need to ask you a few questions about an incident reported by Rowan Keats. My stomach tightened. What kind of incident? Mr. Keats claims you entered his workplace on Monday and threatened him with blackmail. Is that accurate? I had a conversation with Mr. Keats about his relationship with my wife. No threats were made. I showed him documentation of their affair and suggested he might want to reconsider his choices. Everything I did was legal. He seems to think otherwise. He's welcome to think whatever he wants. If he'd like to file charges, I'll be happy to provide my attorney's contact information, along with the evidence I mentioned. Pause. Evidence of what? His affair with my wife. Photos, timestamps, credit card records, all obtained legally. I'm sure his employer would be interested, along with several of his clients who value discretion. Another pause. Mr. Crowell, I'm going to give you some advice. Stay away from Mr. Keats. Don't contact him. Don't go to his workplace. Don't engage. If this escalates, it's not going to end well for anyone. Understood, I said. Appreciate the call. He hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling the situation shift underneath me. Rowan was scared enough to call the police. That meant he was taking this seriously. It also meant he wasn't backing down. Good. Neither was I. That evening, I drove to a different location, the parking garage where Lydia kept her car when she worked late downtown. I knew her schedule. Tuesdays she usually left around 7. I parked on the third level at 6:30, positioned where I could see her designated spot. Her car was already there, which meant she was still in the office. At 7:14 p.m., the elevator doors opened. Lydia stepped out, talking on her phone, laughing at something. She walked toward her car, still engaged in conversation. No, I can't tonight, she said into the phone. I told you, things are complicated right now. Pause. Because Nathan's losing his mind, that's why. She reached her car, fumbled for keys. I know. Just give it a few more days. He'll calm down. Another pause. Rowan, stop. I said I'll handle it. She ended the call, got in her car, and drove away. I sat there processing what I'd heard. She was still talking to him, still planning, still lying. The conversation I'd had with Rowan hadn't changed anything. He'd called the police, played the victim, but he was still in contact with Lydia. They thought this would blow over, that I'd eventually give up. Thursday, I received a call from Miles. Nathan, what the hell is going on? Define going on. I just got a call from Greg Hartwell at Whitmore. Said someone's been asking questions about Lydia, showing up at properties, making people uncomfortable. Was that you? I've been doing research. Research? Nathan, you're stalking your wife. Documenting her activities. There's a legal difference. Miles sighed. Listen, I know things are bad right now, but this isn't the way. You need to talk to someone, get help, figure this out like adults. I tried talking. She wasn't interested. So you're going to harass her instead? I'm going to make sure everyone knows exactly who she is, and who Rowan is, and what they've been doing. That's not revenge, Nathan. That's just sad. Maybe, I said, but it's honest. Honest? You're following people, breaking into properties, threatening careers. That's not honest. That's obsessed. They made choices, Miles. I'm just making sure those choices have consequences. And what about your choices? What about the consequences for you? I didn't respond. Miles waited, then said, For what it's worth, I'm sorry this is happening. But you need to stop before you do something you can't take back. Already past that point, I said, and ended the call. Friday evening, I drove to the condo building where I'd seen Lydia and Rowan together, Unit 14C. According to public records, it was owned by Whitmore Luxury Estates, held as inventory for high-value clients. According to Lydia's access logs, which I'd obtained through a helpful building manager who thought I was a prospective buyer, she'd been entering that unit 3 times a week for the past 4 months. I had keys. Property inspectors get access to a lot of places. The unit was empty, not just unoccupied, completely bare, no furniture, no personal items, nothing but fresh paint and new carpeting. But in the master bedroom, I found what I was looking for, a charging cable plugged into the wall outlet. Designer brand, the kind Rowan used. I'd seen it in his office. I left it there, took photos, documented the timestamp and location. Then I did something I probably shouldn't have. I went to the bathroom, opened the vanity cabinet, found a half-empty bottle of cologne. Expensive brand. I pocketed it. In the kitchen, I noticed something else. 2 wine glasses in the sink. Lipstick on one rim. I photographed those too. Saturday morning, I drove to Rowan's apartment building. Public records again, cross-referenced with his social media location tags. He lived in a converted warehouse downtown, the kind of place with exposed brick and industrial lighting and rent that cost more per month than most people's mortgages. I didn't go inside. I just parked where his BMW was visible, watched the building entrance, waited. At 10:34 a.m., Rowan came out with a gym bag over his shoulder. He walked to his car, tossed the bag in the back seat, started the engine. I followed him to a fitness center 3 blocks away, watched him park and head inside. Then I walked over to his BMW, pulled a valve stem tool from my pocket, and removed the valve cores from all 4 tires. Slow leak, nothing dramatic. He'd notice in an hour or two. Call roadside assistance, spend his afternoon dealing with it. Inconvenient. Annoying, expensive, not provable. I walked back to my truck, drove to a hardware store, bought a small GPS tracker. $20, magnetic mount, battery life of 2 weeks. I drove back to the fitness center, waited until Rowan went inside after dealing with his tires, then attached the tracker under his rear bumper. Now I'd know everywhere he went. Sunday morning, I checked the tracker. Rowan had driven to 3 locations the previous night, a restaurant downtown, the Meridian Hotel, then back to his apartment. The Meridian visit lasted 47 minutes. I pulled up Lydia's credit card statements again. Dinner charge at the same restaurant, same time. They were still seeing each other, still lying, still thinking they'd gotten away with it. Sunday afternoon, Lydia called again. This time I didn't answer. She left a voicemail. "Nathan, you need to stop. Rowan's scared. His car got vandalized. Someone's been following him. He thinks you're going to hurt him. This has to end. Please. Just let me go. Let us both go." I saved the message, backed it up. Then I pulled up my laptop and started drafting an email. No names, no direct accusations, just facts, a timeline, locations, photos with faces blurred just enough to maintain plausible deniability. I had a distribution list ready. Whitmore's HR department, Apex Commercial Realty's compliance officer, 3 of Rowan's biggest clients. Clara Ionescu, because she'd been helping Lydia hide, Miles Fenwick, because he'd asked what was going on. I stared at the send button for a long time. Then I closed the laptop without sending. Not yet, but soon. Monday morning, I received an email from Whitmore's legal department. Subject line, cease and desist. The letter was predictably formal. I was instructed to stop harassing, contacting, or surveilling employees of Whitmore Luxury Estates. Failure to comply would result in legal action, restraining orders, potential charges. I read it twice, then forwarded it to the attorney I'd consulted 3 days earlier. She'd been expensive but thorough, confirmed everything I'd done was technically legal. Gray area, sure, but legal. She called me 20 minutes later. "This is what happens when people get nervous," she said. "They lawyer up. It doesn't mean they have a case." So I ignore it? "You follow the letter exactly. Stop direct contact with Lydia at her workplace. Stop showing up at properties. Stop following Rowan. But everything you've documented, that's yours. You can use it however you want in divorce proceedings." What about making it public? Depends on how you do it. Posting private information online opens you up to defamation claims. But sharing documented facts with relevant parties, employers, mutual acquaintances, that's trickier territory. They'd have to prove intent to harm, and truth is a defense. "Noted," I said. "Nathan," she said carefully, "I need to ask, what's your end game here?" "I want them to understand what they did." "Understanding won't undo it." "Maybe not, but it'll make sure everyone else understands too." She was quiet for a moment. "Be careful. The line between justice and destruction is thinner than you think." I thanked her and hung up. That afternoon my phone rang. Rowan's name flashed on the screen. I stared at it for 3 rings before answering. "What?" "We need to talk," he said. His voice was tight, controlled. "Face to face. Nothing to talk about." "Yes, there is. You want me gone? Fine. I'm gone. But you need to back off. Already told you what needs to happen. And I'm telling you it's done. Lydia and I aren't seeing each other anymore. I ended it yesterday. So whatever you're planning, whatever email you're writing, whatever evidence you think you have, just stop. I leaned back in my chair. You ended it? Yes. Told her it was too complicated, too risky, that I can't deal with you hovering around like some obsessed... He caught himself. Look, it's over. You won. Can we please move on? When did you tell her? Yesterday morning. She came to my apartment. We had a conversation. I told her we're done. She didn't take it well, but that's not my problem anymore. I checked the GPS tracker log on my phone. Sunday morning, Rowan's car had been at his apartment building from 9:47 a.m. to 11:23 a.m. Then it drove to a coffee shop 3 blocks away, stayed there for 47 minutes. Where'd she go after you talked? What? After you told her it was over. Where'd she go? Silence. Then, I don't know. She left. That's it. She drove to the Riverside development, I said. Stayed at Unit 14C for 2 hours. You know how I know? Because I've been tracking you both. Jesus Christ, Nathan. So either you're lying about ending it, or she went there to process what you said. Which is it? I don't know what she did after she left. I told her we're done. That's the truth. Then why were you at the Meridian Hotel last night? Another silence. Longer this time. Dinner meeting, he said finally. Business client. At 10:30 on a Sunday night? It ran late. Try again. Nathan, I'm not doing this with you. I ended things with Lydia. I'm staying away. What more do you want? I want you to stop lying. You were at the Meridian for 47 minutes. That's not a business dinner. That's a goodbye conversation. Or maybe a let's wait until this blows over conversation. You're paranoid. I'm informed. There's a difference. He exhaled slowly. Fine. Yes. She called me, crying, begging me to reconsider. I met her to make it clear that we're done. For real. No coming back. That's what you wanted, right? What I wanted was for you to never touch my wife in the first place. But we're past that now. So what happens next? You ruin both our lives anyway. That depends, I said. On what? On whether you actually stay away, or if this is just a temporary retreat until you think I've moved on. I'm done with her, Nathan, I swear. We'll see, I said, and hung up. Tuesday afternoon, Clara Ionescu showed up at my house unannounced. I opened the door to find her standing there, arms crossed, looking somewhere between angry and exhausted. Can I come in? She asked. Do I have a choice? Not really. I stepped aside. She walked into the living room, took in the half-empty space, furniture gone, walls bare where photos used to hang, and shook her head. Nathan, what are you doing? Moving on. That's not what Lydia says. She says you're stalking her, threatening Rowan, trying to destroy everything. Did she tell you why? She told me you've been struggling, that the marriage has been difficult for both of you. I laughed, couldn't help it. That's what she said? We've been struggling? Clara's expression softened. I know she hurt you. I know this is painful. But the way you're handling it... She cheated on me, Clara. For 6 months. With Rowan. In hotel rooms and empty condos and probably a dozen other places I haven't found yet. She lied about work events, about client dinners, about where she was spending her nights. And when I finally confronted her, she told me I never really saw her. That I was invisible. That she'd already left. I just didn't know it yet. Clara looked down. I didn't know it was that bad. Because she didn't tell you. She told you we were struggling. Made it sound mutual. Like we both failed. But I didn't fail, Clara. I showed up. Every day. I tried. She just stopped caring. So now you're going to punish her? I'm going to make sure people know who she really is. Big difference. No, Clara said firmly. It's not. What you're doing is cruel, Nathan. You're hurting people who don't deserve it. Rowan's just... Just what? An innocent bystander? He knew she was married. He didn't care. And now he's scared because there are consequences. Good. And what about you? What consequences are you facing? I've lost my wife, my marriage. 7 years of my life. I'd say that's consequence enough. Clara stood, walked to the window. She's staying with me again. Did you know that? Showed up last night at 11, crying so hard she could barely breathe. Said Rowan ended things. Said you're making her life impossible. Said she doesn't know how much more she can take. She made her choices. And you're making yours, Clara said, turning to face me. But I need you to understand something. Lydia's not okay, Nathan. She's barely holding it together. If you keep pushing, something's going to break. Already broken, I said. I mean her. She's going to break. Then maybe she should have thought about that before she started this. Clara stared at me for a long moment. You used to be kind. You used to be someone who cared about people. What happened to that person? He got tired of being invisible. She left without another word. I watched her car pull away, then went back inside and checked the GPS tracker again. Rowan's car was at his office. Had been since 8:15 a.m. Normal workday. I pulled up Lydia's credit card activity. Lunch charge at a restaurant near Clara's house. Coffee at a chain shop downtown. Nothing suspicious. Maybe Rowan was telling the truth. Maybe it really was over. But I'd learned not to trust, maybe. Wednesday, I was replacing ceiling tiles at a commercial renovation when Miles called. "Nathan, I need you to level with me. What exactly is your plan here?" I climbed down from the scaffold. "What do you mean?" "I mean with Lydia, with Rowan, with all of this. Because I've been hearing things, and I'm worried about you." "I'm fine." "No, you're not. You're obsessing. You're following people. You're collecting evidence like you're building a legal case. What's the end game?" "Making sure everyone knows the truth." "About what? An affair?" "Nathan, it happens. It's terrible. It's painful. But people survive it. You don't need to burn everything down." She humiliated me in front of everyone we know, at her birthday dinner, announced that nothing was permanent, that she was moving on, and everyone just sat there, Clara and you and all our friends, and nobody said a word. Because we didn't know what to say. It was uncomfortable as hell. "Uncomfortable," I repeated. "That's what it was for you. For me, it was my marriage ending in real time while people ate dessert." Miles sighed. "I get it. I do. But this vendetta you're on, it's not helping. It's making everything worse." "For who? For Lydia? For Rowan?" "Good. They deserve worse. What about for you? What about your own mental health, your reputation, your future? You're torching all of that too." "I don't care." "Yes, you do. You're just too angry to see it right now." I didn't respond. Miles waited, then said, "Look, I'm not trying to defend what Lydia did. She was wrong. But if you go through with whatever you're planning, the emails, the exposure, all of it, you're going to regret it. Not today, maybe not next month, but eventually." "I'll take that chance." "Nathan, thanks for the concern, Miles. I have to get back to work." I hung up before he could respond. Thursday evening, I drove past Rowan's apartment building. His BMW was in its assigned spot. Lights were on in his unit, 4th floor, corner windows. I parked across the street, watched for 30 minutes. At 7:42 p.m., a woman walked up to the building entrance. Not Lydia, someone younger, different hair color. She buzzed an apartment, waited, went inside. I checked the GPS log. Rowan's car hadn't moved all evening, so maybe he had company, maybe he was moving on too, or maybe he was laying low, waiting for me to lose interest. I drove home, made dinner, opened my laptop. The email sat in my drafts folder, complete and ready. 17 recipients. Everything documented, cited, time-stamped. One click, and it would be over. I stared at the send button until my coffee went cold. "Friday morning," Lydia called. I let it ring 4 times before answering. "What?" "I need to pick up some things from the house. My winter clothes, some documents. Can I come by this weekend?" "When?" "Saturday afternoon, around 2? "I'll be there." "Nathan, can you please not be there? This is hard enough without—" "It's my house too. I'll be there." She was quiet for a moment. "Fine, but please, can we just be civil? No fighting, no accusations. I just want to get my things and go." "Sure? Thank you." She hung up. I sat there holding the phone, feeling something shift. She was coming to the house. Our house. One more chance to say what needed to be said, or one more chance to make sure she understood exactly what she'd lost. Saturday, I spent the morning cleaning. Not for her, for me. I wanted the house to look exactly like it had when we were happy, when she still pretended to care. At 1:47 p.m., her car pulled into the driveway. I watched from the living room window as she sat there for a full minute, gathering courage or composure or both. Finally, she got out, walked to the door, knocked instead of using her key. I opened it. She looked tired. Older somehow, like the past 3 weeks had aged her years. "Hi," she said. "Come in." She stepped inside, looked around. "You cleaned." "I live here." "Right." She moved toward the stairs. "I'll just grab my things and go." "Take your time." She disappeared upstairs. I heard closet doors opening, drawers sliding, the sounds of someone packing up pieces of a life they were leaving behind. 20 minutes later, she came back down with 2 suitcases and a garment bag. "That everything?" I asked. "For now. I'll need to come back for the rest eventually, when we figure out what we're doing with the house." "Sure." She set the bags down by the door, turned to face me. Nathan, I know you probably don't want to hear this, but I really am sorry. For all of it. I handled everything wrong. Okay. That's it? Just okay? What do you want me to say, Lydia? That I forgive you? That I understand? I don't. I probably never will. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted you to know that I never meant to hurt you this badly. But you did anyway. Yes. Her voice cracked. I did. And I have to live with that. She picked up her bags, reached for the door. He ended it, didn't he? I said. Rowan. She stopped. Does it matter? Just curious? Yes. He ended it. Said I was too complicated, too much drama. Guess he wanted someone easy. So you lost both of us. She turned, eyes wet. I lost you first, Nathan. Months before Rowan. Maybe years. I just didn't admit it until it was too late. That's convenient. It's true. You stopped seeing me, stopped asking about my day, my dreams, what I needed. You turned into this absent presence, someone who existed in the house but not in my life. And that justified cheating? No, nothing justified that, but it explains it. I was drowning and you didn't notice. So when someone finally did notice, I grabbed on, even though I knew it was wrong. You could have talked to me. I tried. Remember, 6 months ago I said we needed to reconnect? I suggested therapy. You said we were fine. I did remember. Vaguely. We were fine. No, Nathan, you were fine. I was suffocating, and you didn't see it because you didn't want to. She opened the door, stepped onto the porch. For what it's worth, she said, I hope someday you can let this go. Move on. Find someone who makes you happy. Because this anger, this revenge thing you're doing, it's eating you alive. I'm fine. No, she said quietly. You're not. But maybe someday you will be. She walked to her car, loaded her bags, drove away. I stood in the doorway until her car disappeared around the corner. Then I went back inside, opened my laptop, and stared at the email one more time. My finger hovered over the send button. I opened the door. Lydia stood there holding 2 suitcases, her face pale, eyes red from crying. Can I come in? She asked. I stepped aside. She walked past me into the living room, set the suitcases down, turned to face me. Clara kicked me out, she said. Told me I need to deal with my problems instead of hiding from them. Smart woman? Lydia flinched. I have nowhere else to go. There's a hotel 3 miles from here, the Meridian. You know the one. Nathan, what do you want, Lydia? Really, because I'm done guessing. She sat down on the couch, dropped her head into her hands. I don't know anymore. Everything's falling apart. Rowan won't return my calls. Whitmore's HR is investigating me for misuse of company properties. Clara won't talk to me. Even Miles said I screwed up. And you? She looked up at me. You're systematically destroying everything. I'm documenting reality. There's a difference. No, you're punishing me, and I get it. I deserve it. But when does it end? When everyone knows, I said simply. Knows what? Who you really are. What you did. What you're capable of. Lydia stood up, anger flashing across her face. You want to ruin me? Fine. Do it. Send your emails, share your photos, tell everyone everything. But it won't change what happened. It won't make you feel better. It'll just make you like me. I'm nothing like you. You sure about that? She stepped closer. Because the Nathan I married wouldn't stalk people, wouldn't vandalize cars, wouldn't threaten someone's career over a mistake. A mistake? That's what you're calling it? A series of mistakes, she corrected. Bad choices, wrong decisions. But I own them, Nathan. Every single one. Can you say the same? I stared at her. What's that supposed to mean? It means you're not innocent in this. You think I left because of Rowan? I left because you stopped seeing me years ago. You stopped asking how I was, what I needed, what I wanted. You turned into someone who just existed next to me instead of with me. So it's my fault you cheated? No, she said quietly. That's on me. But you made it easy. The words hit harder than they should have. I felt something crack inside, something I'd been holding together through sheer will and anger. Get out, I said. Nathan, get out of my house, now. She stared at me for a long moment, then picked up her suitcases and walked toward the door. She stopped with her hand on the knob. I'm sorry, she said. For all of it. I hope someday you can believe that. Then she left. I stood in the empty living room for a long time, listening to her car drive away. Then I went back to my laptop, opened the email one final time, and I hit send. The email went to 17 people. Whitmore's HR department, Apex Commercial Realty's compliance officer, 3 of Rowan's biggest clients, Clara, Miles, and 12 mutual friends who'd been at that birthday dinner, who'd heard Lydia announce that nothing was permanent, who'd watched me walk out. The subject line was simple: timeline and documentation. The body of the email was even simpler. Attached is a comprehensive record of events over the past 6 months. All information was obtained legally. Make of it what you will. I attached the timeline, the photos, the credit card records, the access logs, everything. Then I closed the laptop and poured myself a drink. My phone started ringing within 20 minutes. I ignored it. Text messages flooded in. I turned the phone off. I sat in the dark living room, drinking whiskey I didn't really want, and waited. Monday morning arrived with the inevitability of consequence. I turned my phone back on to find 47 missed calls, 63 text messages, and 21 voicemails. I didn't listen to any of them. I showered, dressed, drove to work like nothing had changed. Miles called at 9:42 a.m. I answered. "Nathan, what the hell did you do?" Sent an email. "You just nuked your wife's career. Rowan's probably getting fired. Clara won't stop crying. Everyone's talking about it. Everyone." "Good," I said. "That's the point." "The point? Nathan, this isn't justice. This is scorched earth." "Sometimes that's what it takes." "For what? Revenge? Satisfaction? You think this makes you feel better?" "Not really," I admitted, "but it makes sure they don't forget." Miles was quiet for a moment. "I'm sorry, Nathan, for what they did to you. You didn't deserve it. But this isn't who you are." "Maybe it is now." "Then I feel sorry for you too." He hung up. I went back to work, reviewed inspection reports, scheduled site visits, acted like the world hadn't shifted. At 2:17 p.m., my attorney called. "Nathan, we need to talk. Lydia's lawyer just filed an emergency restraining order. They're claiming harassment, cyberstalking, distribution of private information. Everything I sent was legally obtained." "I know, but that doesn't mean it wasn't harmful. And intent matters. They're going to argue you did this to damage her professionally and personally." "They'd be right." "Nathan, what do you need from me?" She sighed. "Court date is Friday. Don't contact Lydia or Rowan before then. Don't send any more emails. Don't do anything that could be construed as escalation." "Fine." "And Nathan?" "Oh, be prepared for this to get worse before it gets better." I thanked her and hung up. Tuesday evening, I received a single text from an unknown number. "You won. Happy now? Rowan." I didn't respond. Wednesday morning, Clara showed up at my house again. This time, she didn't ask to come in. She stood on the porch, arms crossed, eyes hard. "Lydia tried to end her life last night," she said flatly. My stomach dropped. "What?" "Pills. Her sister found her, called an ambulance. She's alive, but barely. The doctors say another hour, and..." Her voice cracked. "This is your fault, Nathan. You did this." "I didn't..." "You systematically destroyed everything she had. Her job, her reputation, her relationships. You made sure everyone knew. You made sure she had nothing left. And now she's in a hospital because she didn't want to wake up anymore." I couldn't speak, couldn't think. The world tilted sideways. "I hope it was worth it," Clara said. "I hope you got what you wanted." She walked away. I stood on the porch, frozen, trying to process what I'd just heard. Then I grabbed my keys and drove to the hospital. The emergency room receptionist wouldn't tell me which room Lydia was in, confidentiality policies, but I knew her sister's name, managed to track her down in the waiting area. "Olivia," I said. She looked up, saw me, stood immediately. "You need to leave, now." "Is she okay? Why do you care? Just tell me if she's okay." Olivia stepped closer, her voice low and furious. "She's alive, no thanks to you. The doctors say she'll recover physically. Mentally? They don't know. She won't talk to anyone, just stares at the wall. Can I see her? Absolutely not. Please, You need to leave," Olivia interrupted. "You've done enough, more than enough. If you ever really cared about her, you'll stay away." I stood there, useless and hollow, then turned and walked out. I drove home in a daze, parked in the driveway, sat in the truck until the sun went down. My phone rang. My attorney. "Nathan, I just heard. The restraining order hearing is canceled. Lydia's lawyer withdrew the petition." "Why?" "I don't know. Maybe she doesn't want to deal with it right now. Maybe she just wants this to be over." "Okay. Nathan, are you all right?" "No," I said honestly. "Do you need me to?" "I'm fine. Thanks for calling." I hung up, went inside, sat in the dark living room. The email was out there. The damage was done. Whitmore would fire Lydia if they hadn't already. Rowan's clients would drop him. Everyone who'd been at that birthday dinner now knew exactly what happened. I'd won, and I felt nothing. Thursday morning, I drove to the storage unit, pulled out the box of wedding photos, and stared at them for an hour. Tried to remember why I'd loved her. Tried to remember who I'd been before all of this. Nothing came. I put the photos back, locked the unit, drove to the Riverside Park where I'd met Rowan, sat on the same bench, watched people walk by, living their normal lives. I'm unaware of how quickly everything could collapse. My phone buzzed, a text from an unknown number. She's awake, asking for you. Olivia. I stared at the message for 10 minutes. Then I drove back to the hospital. This time, Olivia met me in the lobby. Her expression was unreadable. 5 minutes, she said. That's all you get. She led me through corridors and elevators to the psychiatric wing. Lydia was in a private room, sitting up in bed, staring out the window. She looked smaller somehow, fragile. I'll be right outside, Olivia said, and closed the door. Lydia didn't look at me. They told me what you did. The email. Yeah. Whitmore fired me this morning. HR called while I was sedated. Left a voicemail. I'm sorry. No, you're not. She finally turned to face me. Her eyes were empty. You wanted this. You planned it. You executed it perfectly. You won. I didn't know what to say. I deserved it, she continued. Everything you did. I hurt you, and you made sure I paid for it. Fair is fair, right? Lydia, I want you to know something. Her voice was steady now, controlled. Last night, when I took those pills, I wasn't thinking about Rowan or my job or what everyone thinks of me now. I was thinking about you, about the Nathan I knew before all this. And I realized he was gone. You took him away to hurt me, and you succeeded. She looked back out the window. So congratulations, you destroyed us both. Hope it was worth it? I stood there, wanting to say something that would matter, something that would fix any of this. But there was nothing. No words that could undo what I'd done. No apology that would mean anything. I should go, I said finally. Yeah, she agreed. You should. I walked out, past Olivia, through the corridors, into the parking lot. I got in my truck, drove home, parked in the driveway. The house was exactly as I'd left it. Half empty, silent, mine. I went inside, sat down in the living room, and stared at nothing. My phone lit up with a new email notification. The divorce papers. Officially filed. It was over. I'd won.